IG, Facebook. Peace. What's going on? Everybody, a couple minutes, couple seconds to hop on. Today is Friday, August 23rd, FICO Friday, one of my favorite days of the week. Outside of Q&A Wednesday, which I recently just started a few weeks ago. King Toast, what's going on, man? King Anwar. What up, family? FICO Friday, yes. All right. Give everybody a second to hop in. Roundtree family, yes, sir. King Tommy, what up? King Justice. All right, family. So today is August 23rd, 2019, Friday, FICO Friday. Yes, cocktails and credit in New York. Yeah, we're working on that. FICO Friday. For those who may not know me, my name is Will Roundtree, president and founder of We Management Services, president and co-founder of Easy Funding, author of the book Credit is King, credit master instructor for the J. Morrison Academy, all that good stuff. But today we focusing on FICO Friday. You're going to see me looking at a couple different screens. We got the J. Morrison Academy page. We got the Will Roundtree Instagram page. Of course, we got the Facebook page, my personal Facebook. So I know when we first started rocking out with FICO Friday, I was not on Facebook. And a couple people had to keep twisting my arm because they was like, yo, King, I'm not on Instagram, but I want to check out FICO Friday. So we finally got it figured out. And now we're on Facebook as well. So today's topic, I really want to discuss, always say this, the new hot, sexy thing in the world of credit is business credit. And I wanted to do this topic. I know I touched on it a few months back, but I really just wanted to dive in deep and discuss really what is business credit. There's so many misconceptions. There's so much fluff. There's a bunch of people getting jerked when it comes to paying people for business credit and all of this. And I really just want to dive in and really discuss what is business credit. So first of all, business credit is really not what people think it is or what they've heard. And you can get all this money without using your social and this, that, and the third. And so there are some things that have to be done to even get to that position. But I will tell you that for the masses, you are not in position by just getting a few net 30 accounts. A bank is going to give you $300,000, and all you did was order some $50 ink pens from Uline or Quill or different things like that. And so I really want to just talk about that. So first, let's discuss, why is business credit important? Well, first, it gives you the ability to separate your personal credit from your business credit. Just that one within itself is extremely important. Two, from a business standpoint, you want to be able to separate your personal funds from your business funds. One of the top reasons most small and medium-sized businesses go out of business is a lack of capital. And that's because they've spent so long just utilizing their own personal money out of their pocket, out of their bank account, or as they say, bootstrapping the business. And keep in mind, it can be hard enough just trying to live, using your regular money. So imagine your daily expenses, your, taking care of your family, and paying for all the basic necessities in life, but then you're still trying to bootstrap your company where, you may not see a client for 90 days, 120 days. It may take you 6 months before you get a client in your company, but yet your business still has expenses. And so that's one of the first reasons why creating a separate creating division between your personal finances and having business capital. And I prefer the term business capital mainly because your capital may come in a form of personal credit cards. I mean, when I first started my business and really got it off the ground, I used all personal credit cards. Now, I knew the strategies on how to leverage it utilizing utilization. So I knew not to go and exceed 30%. And if I did, I had a way to service the debt. And for those who do not know what that means, if I get $10,000, whether it's a loan or a line of credit or on a credit card, you still have to be able to service the debt, meaning being able to pay it back. And so when I say business capital, I'm talking about any form of capital from the bank, because one of the things that I believe in is TBM. And for those who don't know what that means that stands for the bank's money. So as long as it's the bank's money, that's all I care about. Okay. And because I already have a strategy put in place to be able to go out there and flip that money or make the money work for me or whatever the case is. So just a division in personal credit and business credit is, one, you're going to be able to separate the two credit files, TBM all day. Absolutely. And so now personal credit, we already know it's, a scoring, component where it's going to grade you based off of the three major personal credit bureaus. You have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Most of us should already know that. Now, when it comes to business credit, our business credit scores are ranked by the major business credit bureau agencies. You have Dun & Bradstreet, which has your PAYDEX score. You have Experian Business. You have your Equifax Business. And then you do have what's called a FICO SBSS score, which that's what most of the banks will use to grade you to determine if you're credit worthy or not. Okay, you have what's called a FICO SBSS score. That's kind of like your overall FICO score for your business. Now, your Dun & Bradstreet has a scoring range that goes from 0 to 100, which anywhere between 70 to 80 is what most lenders are looking for. Now, I'm always talking about, one, in dealing with Dun & Bradstreet or DNB, which is they're most commonly referred to, I want people to understand you do not have to pay for their credit builder program. You do not have to pay for their credit builder program. Their credit builder program really is just a way to, monopolize, or because Dun & Bradstreet used to have a monopoly in the business credit sector, because a lot of banks at one point, that was the only bureau that they would base your credit worthiness off of. And so I always tell people, yes, you want to get a DUNS number, but the DUNS number, your PAYDEX, has very little weight in the banks determining your approval for any amounts of credit, the dollar amount, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you are a company who needs vendor accounts, meaning like inventory, envelopes, cleaning supplies, different things like that, then yes, your PAYDEX score is important, because most companies that have vendor credit lines, meaning net 30s, are mainly going off of your PAYDEX score, which your PAYDEX score again goes from 0 to 100, which an ideal score is anywhere between 70 to 80. Now, if you're trying to get actual credit line approvals, meaning credit lines that have a cash value, then that's where your Experian Business and your Equifax Business score are extremely important. Now, your Experian Business also has a score range from 0 to 100, which again, 70 to 80 is an ideal score for your Experian Business credit score. Now, your Equifax Business score has a different scoring model, which they go from 101 to 992. Now, they have a couple other, all of them have different components on how they're actually going to grade your score. So now, most business credit scores are ranked on several different components. You have your credit usage, which of course, it doesn't impact you as much as when you have a personal credit card. But if you have one business credit card and you max it out, it can cause some banks to be cautious when lending to you. So you definitely want to be, conscious about making sure you're just not maxing out all your business credit cards. And again, this is why I always talk to people about when you are borrowing money, when you're leveraging capital, you need to have a strategy behind you. So often, especially my real estate investors who are new in the space of leveraging bank capital, you get some lines of credit for $30,000, and you go out and you buy a property leveraging all that money. Well, now you put yourself in a position where your credit scores take a dive and you can't refinance. So you need to understand and know the strategies on how to borrow the money and how to leverage it properly. And that's why educating yourself, mentorship, consultations, something of that nature of working with someone who is knowledgeable in that space and knowing how to leverage that capital to be able to utilize it for real estate deals. All right. Your payment history. Yes, business credit scores are ranked based off of payment history. So if you get a late payment with your business credit cards, your business line of credit, or even your vendor account, that can hurt you. Now, they actually grade your business credit score on payment history stronger if you pay before the actual due date. Now, when it comes to personal credit scores, they don't care as long as you pay it within the due date and then within that grace period. But with business credit, you actually are graded higher when you make your payments before the actual due date. And some business credit lenders do not have a grace period. If you're 1 day past the due date, they can dock you from a 0 to a 30-day late. Okay, so keep that in mind. They can dock you from a 0 to a 30-day late payment if you're 1 day past the payment date. So you always want to make sure you find out if there is even a grace period with that particular bank or underwriting or that financial institution. Your length of payment history, that also matters when it comes to dealing with your business credit score. You have your outstanding debts, your company size. This is really important. I tell everybody, and I'm about to give y'all some game, when you're filling out a business credit application, even if you are a one-man operation, never put down you have 0 employees or you're a one-person operation. I always tell people you want to put at minimum 5 to 10 people. Banks look at that. Because again, they're grading you off of risk factors, off of assessments, off of perception. So if you're one-man operation, that could also deter the bank and could sway them on their approvals. And then I always say your industry, your risk industry, or your industry risk level. Whenever you pull your business credit reports, all industries, depending, and this is why your company name or your SIC code is vitally important. They will lend money or determine not to lend you money based off of your risk industry, or the industry or the risk level of that industry that your company is in. And so understanding, you can actually go to Google and type in high risk business industries for credit. And they will tell you the industries you want to refrain from categorizing your business under. So again, for a lot of my real estate investors, I understand we want to be proud and tell people we do real estate investing, we're a developer. But if you walk into a bank and say, hey, I'm trying to borrow money as a real estate investor, they will tell you no. Some banks will not even accept the application. We just had this happen with a client. He was so adamant about putting real estate investing on his application, the bank would not even accept his application because some banks will not deal with real estate investors. So if you are in real estate, I always tell my clients, put yourself down and code your business, put your risk, your industry on paper as a property management company or a consulting company. Because even if you're a wholesaler, you are a consulting. You are a consultant or a marketing company. You're not buying the properties. You are marketing the contract, quote unquote, for my wholesalers. So understand you just have to get creative or have your parent company, and you can set it up as a shell company or a holding company, however you want to do it. Speak with your financial advisor, your attorney or whoever, and have one company specifically just for funding. And then have another company if you want to put real estate or whatever that fancy title in the company name. You can have a company specifically just for that. But then you can have multiple companies that you use for the funding to get the capital. So just keep in mind that getting in position is all about perception for the company. Okay, it's perception on paper. So again, the factors that calculate your scores for your business are your credit usage, payment history, length of history, outstanding debts, company size, and your industry risk level. They want to make sure that you're not in a high risk industry, and again, some of the ones that I could just think of off the top of my head are credit repair. I'm in the credit repair industry. If you notice, my company does not have credit repair in it. I did that purposely because I did not want to limit a bank being able to give me some capital because I'm in a high risk industry. Real estate investing. I have several companies that I use for real estate investing. None of them have the word real estate or investments in the title. Excuse me. Other companies, transportation. You want to be very careful that you code yourself in what type of transportation. Some banks don't allow like limo services or taxi service. Very high risk industry. So it's certain ways you can code your business on paper so that way the banks will still lend money to you. Of course, we know the gambling and other high risk websites is high risk, business industries. But again, I always just tell people, how will you know your industry is high risk? You can Google it. You can go to Google and they'll let you know the high risk industries. And again, I like to set up all my companies as marketing and consulting or educational companies, very low risk industries. And your credit score also is factored into your risk level. So if you're in a high risk industry, you cap yourself of what the highest you'll get as a business credit score. So knowing these things before you go and set up, a company will save you a lot of heartache down the line, because the last thing you want to do is been working on your business credit for 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, and then you're in a high risk industry and you minimize the funding you can get from the bank because of the risk level that your company is in. So these are the basics of what we need to understand about business credit. It's not just about going out trying to get a bunch of money, because most of us, again, we have to have a way to even service the debt. We always saying, hey, I'm trying to get X amount of dollars for my company. Well, how are you going to service it? And that's really important. And so before I go into some more of it, why you want to establish business credit? One, you put yourself in a position to get financing a little easier. Now, the biggest impact in approving to getting approvals for your business, of course, is going to be your personal credit. So you always got to make sure that your personal credit is in position. Once your personal credit is in position, that is 90% of what you need to be able to do or be in position to be able to get an approval from the bank. And so all this other nonsense people are telling you, go get a Uline and a Quill and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's cool. But if your personal credit is not in position, no bank will give you any money from the bank. It's going to give you better rates on the insurance for your company. If you ever decide, or if you are in an industry where you have to get insurance for your company, your business credit score is also a barometer to determine that, just like your personal credit. Your personal credit also dictates your personal insurance premiums that you're paying. It separates your business from your personal finances. Again, you need to have an actual entity. Now, let's first preference what is a business entity, because some people just have an EIN number. You are a sole proprietor. That is not a business entity. You need to actually have an actual business entity structure, LLC, incorporation, or S Corp, that is registered with the state, the Secretary of State. And then you have your EIN number. Your EIN number is for IRS purposes. So that make sure that you have an actual registered business with the state, whatever state you decide to register your company with. And it gives you, it increases your borrowing power. Keep in mind that you want to be able to be in a position to leverage your credit if you need to. See, again, one of the things that I'm always learning is that I'd rather have and not need than to need it and not have it. So often I talk to people who, didn't want to build their business credit, and then an opportunity comes and falls in their lap. The bank won't finance them because they're going through a private lender, because a lot of private lenders don't want you to have your properties under your personal name. I hope you guys know that. They want you to have they want you to put the property under the actual LLC, a corporation, whatever business entity structure you want to set up, and because it gives them more flexibility. And so by having a business entity, having business credit, it can increase your borrowing power, because as a sole proprietor, some banks do not like to lend to sole proprietors. They want to lend to an actual entity. So when you have your business structure set up, you have good credit, your company is bank compliant, you can always go to a bank and get money. Always. Now, the second portion to that is that You can set up multiple companies. Yes, you can have 3 companies, go to 3 different banks and get capital from each different bank. We just, like I mentioned, we had a client recently who has 4 companies, and we sent her to one of our bank partners, and she got $75,000 for each company. We got her a $50,000 line of credit and a $25,000 credit card, a business credit card. So she put herself in position to get $300,000 or whatever that breaks down to of capital, 75,000 times all for all 4 companies. And again, that's just one particular bank. We're going to go to another bank, which we're going to clean up her inquiries and take her back to go and get some more capital from a bank for all 4 companies. So now this is also crucial because you can have a credit partner. Let's say your credit is not in position. You can establish a credit partner, put them on a company, and you can go and get the capital for your business. So now, again, going back to the original question, what is business credit, or as I say, business capital? It's essentially putting yourself in position with your personal credit in your business structure, your business entity, to go to the bank and leverage the capital of your personal credit and the business to be able to get capital for that particular business. Now, your company does not have to be in business a particular period of time in order to get business credit cards. Okay. Now, yes, to get business lines of credit, you need to be in business 2 years old. But to get business credit cards, your company, as long as the company is active and is bank compliant, you will be able to be in position to get approved for business credit cards. So these are just some of the things that I really want people to understand. I've talked to somebody who recently just spent $7,500 to go through some company who promised to get them all this capital without using their social security number. And I always tell people it's not practical. Most banks are not lending in that fashion. They always going to make you personally guarantor the bulk or most of the capital that you're going after, especially if it's uncollateralized. But those who do not know the power of it being uncollateralized and unsecured, meaning you're not having to show any collateral. You can use stated income. Somebody just put having a credit partner is a must. Absolutely. Imagine your credit being, in shambles because maybe you had a medical situation and you had to file bankruptcy or whatever, but you have a person who has been your business partner or a family member or a spouse who has great credit. You literally can put them on your company and walk into the bank and be able to get capital for your business. I think that that's powerful because there are not a lot of different ways for you to put yourself in position from nothing and be able to go out there and get capital to start that new business, fund that new startup, grow an existing business and whatnot. And so just understanding the power is in the information. But then once we get the information, we got to actually go out there, apply it and use it. So again, the truth about business credit is first just really understanding the power of being able to use your business and your credit to be able to go out to the banks and get access to capital. So that's really important for us to know and to also understand that you can do this with multiple companies. I was talking with a couple kings the other day, and they have 42 companies that they're going through and getting funded. There is no max on what the banks will not lend you because remember, when you get approved for a business credit card, business line of credit, it does not show on your personal credit. So it's not impacting your DTI. So then what can you do? You can start another company and build that credit profile out. And as long as you're servicing the debt, the banks will always continue to borrow you money because it doesn't show up on your personal credit profile. Again, this is why we want to have businesses. This is why we want to have entities. This is why. So there's never a reason that we should have a lack of not having access to. When people always say, hey, I don't have the money, I tell them, look, you need to stop saying that. You need to figure out how do you get the money. Getting the money is easy. It's not going to be this easy forever, but we must invest in ourselves. We must invest in our time because that's something a lot of us don't do. We don't invest in our time. If something doesn't happen overnight, we get upset or we think it's a scam or we think it doesn't work. But we'll go and work for somebody for 40 years and get nowhere half in position that we wanted to be in, and we don't think it's something wrong with that. I just think that a lot of what we've been kind of conditioned to think is a detriment to ourselves. We just have to go out there and put in a little bit of work. And like I tell people, if it took us 4 years to get in position, I'm willing to make that sacrifice, because if we did nothing over 4 years, we potentially put ourselves at risk at being in a worse position, because you could lose your job or the company shuts down or whatever the case is. So, it's just about having access to the information and really going out there and just making it happen. So often people always ask me, hey, what's the best way to start? I say, just get started. We need to stop thinking everything has to be perfect and we got to have this beautiful business plan and the stars have to be aligned and all this. Like, we don't have to have all of that. We just got to go out there and make it happen. Stop making excuses and go out here and use the information that we're getting. The information is right at our fingertips. We just have to go out there, as somebody said, the supreme hustle. Yes, 42 companies. There is no rule or law that says you can't do this with multiple companies. First, we got to stop being cheap and saying, oh, I gotta have multiple companies for my multiple properties. Yes. Why wouldn't you want to? Especially if you can go and leverage every single company that you have. I mean, you should be setting up, I'm just telling you what I would do and how I do things. I set up several companies a year and letting each one of those mature and put myself in position to be able to fund every last one of those companies. So no matter what it is that I plan to do, whether it's starting a new venture, growing a new company, investing in an existing company, I'll always at least be in position once the opportunity presents itself, because most of us miss out on opportunities because we don't want to do the preparation in the beginning. It sounds too much like work. It sounds too hard. Somebody just said, why not every entity is a child? You can grow it. Absolutely. An entity is really just a child, if you really think about it. You're just letting them season and putting them in position to be able to go out there and flourish on their own. Absolutely. I like that analogy. Will this session be recorded so I can share it with someone that may not be on Facebook? Yes, this will be recorded. So I'll go ahead and open it up for some Q&A for everybody who may have some questions about credit, business credit, and how simple it is to get the bank money. I'm telling you, to be able to go into a bank, not have to show proof of income and get some capital for your business to, invest in that new real estate deal or whatever. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Let's talk recession. What you want to talk about? A recession is only for people who are not prepared. If you're not prepared, then yes. People don't know that it only takes under $500 to set up an LLC. Yes, and that also depends on what state you live in. Some states are a little bit higher. In Nevada, it's $750, so some states are higher. Our lawn business is high risk. So someone asked, our lawn business is high risk. You have to go and check. I don't know much about that particular industry, but if it is, you just categorize it differently. You could say that, lawn services may be, but landscapers may not. So you just have to go in and find out what that particular state or what is constituted as, high risk. Somebody said, yes, they are. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about lawn services. Is it best to open up an account at the bank I'm looking to get funded from first? Yeah, you always want to have a business bank account. A lot of banks now are going to relationship based. So you want to definitely make sure you open up a bank account. And sometimes people always say, well, I don't want to already have a bank account. Go open another one. It's nothing wrong with having multiple bank accounts. That's how you diversify, your lending portfolio, as I call it. You're going to have 10 different banks. You have 10 different companies. So, definitely spread them out. A recession is only for people who are not prepared. Absolutely. Can I make payments to collection agency without calling them to set up a payment plan? Not sure why you would want to do that, because if you are doing a payment plan with them and as soon as you miss that payment, the clock can start over, that debt can report, as well as you potentially now have restarted the clock for the statute of limitations, which gives them the time frame that they can sue you for that debt. How would you go about purchasing a semi-truck? It depends. You can finance it. Some banks have what are called equipment loans or equipment lines of credit, which you can get through your business, which allows you to purchase the truck under your company because you're collateralizing the truck. And some banks do offer financing specifically just for trucks. So you definitely want to go out there, do your due diligence. And I tell people, call more than one bank. You know, I got a coaching client right now. He called me and said, look, Will, this bank won't finance me. I said, okay, how many other banks did you call? He was like, none. I'm like, okay, well, call me back when you call about 15 to 20. You know, so every bank has their own rules. You know, we have to stop laying down anytime somebody tells us no. You know, we got to go out there and keep going. How do I get startup business funding for a t-shirt business? Easy funding, Big TZ 5000. You may want to look at our easy funding. Can you elaborate more in paying debts off? What do you want to know about that question? I believe that, you know, depending on what the debt is, first you want to have them validate the debt. Just because the collection agency say you owe a debt doesn't mean that it's legitimately being reported. So the bank wasn't aware of DNB number. I had to school them. Yeah, that's valid. You'd be surprised. A lot of these bankers and people in these positions at these financial institutions know nothing about credit. So we have to stop going in there relying on them to walk us through the process. This is why we have to be educated ourselves. You know, I've sat down with branch managers where I had to school them on, you know, on business credit, you know, believe it or not. No, I remember when I went to Sam's Club used to have a bank product where you did, as long as your company was 2 years old and doing a certain amount in revenue, you didn't have to give them your social security number for their business credit card. And the person at the counter was going back and forth with me saying, hey, we need your social. And I was like, no, you don't. Now, they don't offer that card anymore. But when she came back, she was like, oh, yes, you're completely right. You got to prove this, that, and the third. So don't let these people try to tell you these things. You know, again, the lack of information can hurt you. And this is why we have to continue to educate ourselves, because a lot of us have probably missed out on a lot of situations and deals because we weren't properly prepared, you know. So we just got to make sure we educate ourselves. Are you saying that all I need to do is get a business credit card? Are you saying all I need to get business credit is an operating agreement? No, I didn't say that. I said you need to have great credit. You need to have a business, and you got to make sure that your company is bank compliant and all of that. So there are strategies that go into that. Okay. My credit card was closed, but I borrowed money. If I don't pay it, will it report back on my credit? Potentially, yes. If they close it, depending on what type of card and who the bank is, that is completely correct. I owe tuition that went to collections. Can I pay the tuition amount back instead of the higher amount that the debt collectors are requesting? Very good question. So somebody asked, they said they have a college tuition that went to collections. Can they pay the institution back as opposed to collectors where they're requesting a dollar amount? Usually once the company has written off the debt, you have to pay whoever owns that debt at the time. Okay, so typically they will not take the payment. So you got to be very careful about that. A collection agency said they bought my debt. That means I don't have to pay the collection agency, right? I'm not saying that, because keep in mind, you still put yourself in a position of being sued. What I'm saying is that I never just pay a debt just because they say I owe it. I'm going to make them validate it, verify it, and at least get it off my credit. And then if they don't sue you, they don't sue you. If you morally feel you want to pay the debt, you want to pay the debt off. But I'm not going to pay somebody. I mean, first of all, you got to understand, you don't know if the debt is legitimate. These companies can have your name mixed up or whatever the case is. So always have them validate the debt. I never recommend somebody just paying it just because the collection agency say to pay it. What is the best way to get a voluntary repo off your credit? You want to dispute it. I mean, there are different strategies you can use to dispute the debt. A couple different ways would be there are different loan fraud, dispute strategies, meaning that have them validate the debt that they said the vehicle was supposed to be sold for versus what was on the application. You can dispute the dollar amount they're reporting. If they wrote it off, if they wrote a part of the repo off based off of an auction, but they're saying you still owe the full dollar amount. I mean, it's a lot of different things you can do to dispute that debt when it comes to a repossession. You know, there are many different strategies. How to get late payments off. Let's see. How to get late payments off accounts you want to keep. That can be difficult. I always tell people to use the goodwill letter. But if you have multiple lates, meaning like if you got like 10 late payments on one account, it's going to be tough to get those removed. Late payments are probably one of the hardest things to get removed, especially on open accounts. All right, what else we got? Can you use the same PG multiple 2O corps and go to the same lender for business credit funding? Yes, you can personally guarantor 2 companies for the same lender. I think that's what you're asking. Yes, you can, like I mentioned, we took one client who had 4 companies to one bank. So yes, you can. Can you work around Chapter 7? Well, you can dispute a Chapter 7. That's what I would do first. Some banks, if it's reporting on your credit, they will deny you the application depending on what you're applying for. All right. How do I get hard inquiries off my report? I would reach out to us. That's one of the things we do. But no, in real talk, credit inquiries can be a thorn in credit reports, especially if you're trying to get unsecured capital from a bank. And so you just want to make sure that you know what you're doing when you're disputing them and make them validate that they have a wet signature on the application. I mean, most applications are now done digital, so it makes it harder for them to prove. Does JMA still offer credit mastery course? We have now went to the RBC's, JD. We went to the RBC's curriculum. All right, so definitely look into that. Student loan debt, what a scam. Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I mean, yeah, student loan debt can definitely get a lot of people trapped. I've done this. The service is A1. Hey, I appreciate that, family. Thank you. Should I settle my loan debts and then dispute it or dispute it first? I always recommend, I'm going to always dispute my debt first. And this is what I always tell clients. I always tell them to dispute it first. If a card is closed on a credit report but other cards are visible, if I pay the other cards remaining on the credit report, will my score go up? It depends on what your utilization looks like. Again, it also depends on what the rest of your credit profile looks like. All right. If the rest of your credit profile is in shambles, you got to remember, it's just like going through credit repair. If you get all your collections off your credit, but your utilization is at 103%, your score isn't going to increase much. So you have to know everything of what's impacting your credit score. Is it better to have personal credit in order first before building business credit? You can do both. You can build and work on your business credit profile, but in order to get approvals, yes, you need to have good credit. All right. Will you put this live up when you're done? I missed the beginning. Absolutely. I will put this live up and make sure that I have it on YouTube. All right. If a company went bankrupt and they still sent my credit to debt collections, what should I do? Dispute it. Dispute it, dispute it, dispute it. You definitely can dispute it. What if a company say they don't remove items from the credit report? I would dispute it again. They just tell people that. That's their way of using scare tactics. If they are not legitimately reporting the information, trust me, and there's always a strategy on how you can dispute that debt, they have to remove it. And sometimes it may just take a little bit longer, but we just got to go through the process. Well, let me see what else we got. How to build business credit. Houston.Reese. There's several different ways on building business credit. I recommend you possibly look into our RBCs if you want the one-on-one strategies, or you can book a consultation with me and my team, or even one-on-one coaching. Can you still dispute a debt that has been validated? And how do you know it has been actually validated? Yes, you can still dispute a debt even though they say they validated it. You want them to show proof of what they're actually validating. If they send you back a photocopy of the application that they claim that you signed, that is not validating the debt. You want the original application. You know, a lot of times they don't send anything back. So you just want to fight them on that and force them to show how are they validating that debt. You want to force the credit bureaus to show you how they're validating. What do you think about it applying for 10 cards at one time? Yeah, when you're applying for capital for your business, I think you should do all your applications in one day. If you space them out doing one day at a time, then you run the risk of it coming back saying, hey, you now have too many credit inquiries. So what way that we do is we go and do our credit applications all at one time, clean up the inquiries, and then we go back. Can you change your business name if it is a high-risk name? Absolutely. Scope_216. Yes, you can change the business name. All right. Should you dispute accounts online or by mail? Always by mail, never online, because you're using the same eOscar software that they are using. How do I wholesale a house that I owe taxes on? I think I read that right. That would be something you want to speak with someone who is proficient in wholesaling. That's not necessarily a strategy that I focus on. Anything in the real estate realm, I do portfolio building, buying and holding, and credit strategies from that. Let's see what else we got. Would you rather to develop on residential or commercial building? I mean, commercial is always the end goal for a lot of people. So, I mean, long-term development on commercial, because sometimes, believe it or not, it takes the same amount of headache to close and develop a commercial deal as it does a residential deal. So, is it worth buying a shelf corp to expedite funding? Very good question. I always tell people buying a shelf corp a lot of times does not help you get any further, any quicker. Here is why. Let's say you buy a shelf corporation and the EIN number is no longer valid. You have to go and get a new EIN number. Guess what? The banks sometimes are going to go from the established date of the EIN number. So if you buy a 15-year-old corporation, but your EIN number is 3 months old, guess what they're going to classify that business age? 3 months old. So you got to be very careful and understand, depending on the type of capital you're trying to borrow, the lending institution, if you're going to be getting the original EIN number. So all of those things do play a role, but that is a very good question. Will, how do I link up with you for one-on-one coaching? I'm ready now. Also, we'll be in Vegas 9/10 and 9/11. JD, email team@wemanagement.inc.com. Justice, if you can put that in the link for me on Facebook, please. All right, let me see. Can you remove hard inquiries on personal credit? Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody on this live, on any of the pages, if you've gotten hard inquiries removed from our team, drop me a fist emoji. I'm telling you, when you understand how to get them hard inquiries off, you can go out there and really run it up. I'm telling you. Because other than that, you got to wait almost 12 months to go back and get some capital from the bank. But when you know how to get them hard inquiries off, yeah, I'm telling you, you can definitely run it up. All right. About $45K in collections for 2 years. 1/3 in garnishment in bankruptcy, only way out. I will tell people, usually the only time I recommend people to consider bankruptcy, and it also depends on the amount that you have in garnishment, could be BK, but I always like to look at people's situation, to make that determination, or before I give them a recommendation, I should say. I apologize, Facebook, man, this keeps freezing up over here. What's your favorite business credit card? I personally like American Express, the Platinum. A couple different reasons. One, all of the perks that come along with it. Their concierge service is on point. Get access to all the airport lounges across the country. The points you get TSA pre-check for free for 5 years. You get access to, you just get a plethora of things with the American Express Platinum. Now, if you're not a traveler, it may not be worth the annual fee. But me personally, I like the American Express Platinum card, which I pretty much use that for everything when it comes to business, racking up those points, getting those airline miles, and those good perks. You get discount on car rental, hotel, all that good stuff. I mean, I've even been able to get into events that were sold out by calling American Express concierge service, and they were still able to get us in. So definitely my favorite card is that. Can student loans be removed off your credit report? Yes. If anybody in the lives have had worked with us and got their student loans removed. Drop me a 100 emoji. You can dispute student loans off credit reports. Now, it doesn't mean you don't owe them. It just means that from a credit standpoint, it does not impact you. What does it mean if the debt account is no longer appearing on my Credit Karma? Well, it depends on if it's appearing anywhere else. It depends on if it's appearing anywhere else. So it would be hard to say why that would be the case. Which card was that? It was the American Express Platinum. American Express Platinum, my favorite business card. All right. I've heard you shouldn't delete inquiries that are attached to open accounts. That's only if a person does not know how to dispute them. Because if you don't know what you're doing, disputing inquiries on an open account, you do run the risk of getting the account closed. But that's for people who don't know how to dispute the credit inquiry. So yes, that's what that determines. Can you remove closed accounts off a profile? Yes, you definitely can dispute closed accounts off a credit report. Can I start easy funding without having a business yet? Yes, you can, because you can always start on getting it done once you are in the easy funding process. Are trade lines good to get? That's a very good question. I only recommend someone buying trade lines if they have a purpose of leveraging the reason on why they got them. So, for example, I wouldn't get trade lines just because I'm fixing my credit, because if I'm not going to use my credit with the trade lines on there, they're going to fall off anyway. So I only recommend them usually for our funding clients, because if they need to show and increase their age of file or show a high limit, then of course that's when I have them get the authorized users or trade lines. But outside of that, we don't believe in selling people trade lines just to sell them so their score can look good for 30 days and then it falls back down. What reason do you use when you are disputing student loans? It depends on what they are reporting. A lot of times they're reporting the same line item multiple times. A lot of times the dollar amount is inaccurate. So it really just depends. And then we also go based off the reason code. So we look at the credit report. Any advice on disputing student loans, closed accounts? Like I just mentioned, it depends on how it's reporting on a credit report. Let me see. What up, homie? How many LLCs can I be a credit partner on? King Frank, what up with you? Man, you could be a credit partner on as many as you want. There's no minimum or maximum. One of my clients, when he found out about this strategy, he literally went out and became a credit partner on about 7 different companies. And so we got him about $95,000 on each company, over the course of working with them. Let's see. It is required to get a cash advance on a credit card to buy a property. No, it is not. Matter of fact, we do not do cash advances on credit cards at all. When I invest in the RBC Path 3, can I let my daughter use it also? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can let whoever in the household. Matter of fact, that's what we should be doing. We should definitely be letting our loved ones get this good information and good game. That way we can create a group economics within the network. What credit monitoring service you use to evaluate clients' profile? I particularly like Experian and Credit Check Total just because it's the most user friendly and it's easier for the client who may not be as credit savvy to be able to read. Do you get hard inquiries for American Express Platinum? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But remember, you can always dispute the inquiry. Did you say late payments on closed accounts, only a goodwill letter is needed? And is that an old creditor or 3 bureaus? No, I said that when you have a late payment on a closed account, I recommend you just dispute the entire account off. Usually. And it all depends on what the rest of the credit file looks like. Now, let's say you have a late payment on an account that's closed and the late payment was 5 years old, but you just recently closed the account. That payment history may have more weight. So you got to be able to know how to actually read a credit report. And this is why having a stronger credit profile is really important. So I'm saying the only time you use a goodwill letter is when you have a late payment on an open account. So that's generally where that comes into play. All right. Would you recommend the first time buyer or first investment FHA loan? Very good question. Someone asked when buying a house, would I use the first time home buyer FHA for a personal property or an investment? That really depends because if you live in a market where you can get a multifamily using FHA, I would do that. In Nevada, there aren't really multifamilies or duplexes, so it really just depends. But if I was in a market where I could use a FHA benefit and get a multifamily, I would do that now. I would live in one and rent the other ones out because I'll be living for free. So, but unfortunately, Nevada is not a market for that. What would you think about buying land from Africa and building on it? International real estate. I say go for it, definitely. He who owns the most land wins, always. Is student loan rehab the best way to get default student loans removed from my credit report? Good question. The student loan rehab program does not remove it. They just get it out of default and help you get it back in good standing. It does not remove it from your credit report. They tell you that, but that's all BS. I didn't know that you can get inquiries removed from lines of credit still open. Yes, we do it all the time. Alan M. 7572. We dispute it all the time. Multifamily is the best way to go. It's definitely a good way to go, especially if you're in a market where you can get multifamilies. What is the name of the loan? Say it one more time. I'm not sure what you're talking about when you say the name of the loan. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can you dispute alternative types of profiles? Are you meaning CPNs? That's the only thing that I could think of. I have seen people dispute those. I mean, some people may have slipped a CPN through to us. I mean, we don't know. So, yes, you definitely can dispute a credit profile. Removing house late payments. Again, you use the same strategy for any type of late payments. Now, if you have multiple lates on the open account, it could be hard to get removed. Again, you could use a goodwill letter, but you just gotta know what you're getting into. When are you coming back to Houston? I don't know. We're working on it. Supposed to be trying to do an event with King Willie D because he's out there running for a seat, and so he wanted to do an event together. So that's something he and I have been in talks about. All right, let me see. Is there a limit to what you can do with your general repair service? I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding that question. Is my ED funding limit going to be based off my highest credit card by 3? No, your easy funding limit can be determined by multiple different factors. Your DTI also plays a role in that. This is why I tell people we need to understand how to use the strategy of stated income. If you say you make $30,000 a year, but your total debts per year are $29,000, the banks aren't going to lend you much. So you got to understand how to play that game. This is why knowing these strategies are very important. We have to understand these credit strategies when we're going and playing with these banks. They play the games with us, so we just using their own medicine back on them. See, how do you stop companies that you've been in business with in the past from making hard inquiries on your credit report? It depends on who the institution is. Usually, the only time the banks or the institution can do that is if in the small print of the application, you've given them authorization to pull your credit in order to kind of do a checkup to make sure that they are still going to extend you that line. American Express is notorious for this, but most of the time, those pulls that they do ongoing are soft credit pulls. They don't show up on the actual credit report. Now, if it's an auto loan company, when you're auto loan shopping, yes, they can continue to run your credit. It is in the small print. So this is why I tell people, if you want to prevent that from happening, make sure you have great credit. Go to your own bank or credit union, get your own financing, then go to the car dealership. So, how much money should you state? You can put down whatever you want. You have to know what your debts are based off of your income. So, I mean, most of the time, most banks won't ask you for verification for $150 or less. That's $150,000 or less on the application. Also, too, remember you can use household income. So you can state your income and also use household income. How long after getting credit repairs should you ask for an increase? You can ask for it immediately. Every single bank and institution is different. Do you think LegalZoom is a good tool to use for business formation? Yes, especially if you don't know how to do it or you do not have a registered agent. Yes, you can use that. Can I get pre-qualified by a bank and a broker? Yes. What software do you use for your credit repair clients, and can you recommend one? We actually have a customized one, family. So we invested and got our own customized software that we invested in. When will you be rolling out your barbershop, beauty salon, financial literacy tour so I can keep my friends and family informed? Yeah, we're actually putting together another rollout right now, Tina McGill. We are putting that together right now. What is required for stated income? You can state whatever amount you want to put on the application. There are really no rules when it comes to stated income. Bank lending or proprietary lending? It depends on what I'm needing the lending for. All right. For FHA, for self-employment, how much should I put down that I gross to pre-qualify? Well, they're going to verify the income. So that's going to depend on the lender. So if you're self-employed and you're trying to buy a property, you can't. I'm talking stated income only from a unsecured lending standpoint, meaning credit cards, business lines of credit, different things like that. Mr. VIP 317, appreciate that. Thank you. How lowering your credit utilization affects credit? Yes, your credit utilization is 30% of your score, so it definitely can impact your credit. All right. Your general repair and restoration package, what does it include, and is there a limit to the collection and inquiries that you work on? So anytime you're getting credit repair, credit inquiries is not included in that. If you want more information, you can go to our website and get information on that. But typically credit repair is where we go in and dispute the derogatory items off of your credit report. Inquiries are separate. How long before you can refi an investment property after Chapter 13 dismissal? It depends on that bank. Every bank is going to be different. Some banks are a little more friendlier. Usually private banks are a little bit more lenient when it comes to that type of stuff. I have to get you a bag. Water King 203, what kind of bag you trying to get me? Let's go make this money. Will is the bomb. Golden Comb. Thank you. All right. Some banks won't lend unless you have 2-year tax returns, which lenders don't follow this structure. So why Money CEO? That is only for business lines of credit. You can get a business credit card for a company that is 2 years or less. But a business line of credit, yes, you have to be 2 years or older. And some banks do require tax returns, but not every single bank. This is why you want to become a professional at hiring professionals, because we know some of the banks that do not ask for tax returns when you're trying to get a business line of credit. I can get you that African bag. Flashy Mo, make sure you get at me. I would love to have that African bag. Please get at me for that. Please. If you're applying for a loan for an investment property, a single family property, is it best to use your family name, your business name, or an investment in the name? I'm not sure I read that correctly, but remember, it depends on that bank. Every single bank is going to have their own, guidelines on how they're going to borrow money to you. Okay. Last question. Can you remove the BK7 before the 2 years? Absolutely. You can remove and dispute a bankruptcy at any given time, as long as it has been discharged. All right. So, family, I appreciate everybody hopping on here. The IG timer is ticking down. So, again, make sure we go out. We support local businesses. Again, next week we will have FICO Friday again. Also, make sure that you are live on the Q&A Wednesdays every single week on my personal Instagram page. Do you have any advice for someone starting an LLC? It depends on what you are trying to accomplish with the LLC. I will say that starting one and setting one up is very, very, very simple. I'm going to have to watch this 2 or 3 times. Massive jewels drop. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you, King George. All right, family, what is your Instagram page? Mr. Will Roundtree. Flashy Mo. Mr. Will Roundtree is my IG page. So, family, I appreciate y'all, man. Let's keep liking this. Let's keep sharing this. Make sure you're hitting the little triangle. We're sharing this. Facebook, make sure we're sharing the videos. Instagram, we'll make sure we're sharing the videos. And again, I will see you guys next week for FICO Friday. And make sure that you are live again on Q&A Wednesday, where in order for me to answer your question, you have to hop in the live with me. And I only do that on my personal Instagram page. And if you are not following me on Instagram, it is at Mr. Will Roundtree on IG. All right, family. Peace.